What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin, and I'm coming back to you with another video indeed, talking about this week's box office numbers, which really is a story of two films. So let me get the more boring one out of the way, and that is How to Train Your Dragon 3, or How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, which is doing exceptionally well. It made $55.5 million and is overall just doing great. I mean, overall worldwide, $274.9 million for its grand opening. That's pretty damn good. For a $129 million budget, this film is going to break even. This film is going to definitely make money, and also it is even at the point where it could be one of the most profitable How to Train Your Dragons yet. So kudos to DreamWorks for them putting this together, and I'm probably going to go see it because overall I've enjoyed the How to Train Your Dragon films, but also, at the same time, I'm glad that they are ending it. I'm glad that they've made it clear saying this is going to be the final movie, and I hope that they keep it that way. I don't want them to do a Toy Story 3 where it's like, this is a perfect ending to a story, and then all of a sudden announce, oh, we're going to make more money, and announce a Toy Story 4 or a How to Train Your Dragon 4. Let's hope that doesn't happen. However, doing very well. Glad to see a movie that has consistently been good overall, I would say. Again, I enjoyed the first two, and it's cool to see it happen once again with this, and it's doing well. So kudos to you. The other movie, though, that I want to talk about in great detail is Alita Battle Angel. So I actually have a couple people from my channel who've been loving my videos talking about it over there. We're going to be coming over to the Geeks and Gamers channel to not only hopefully subscribe to the channel, but also to listen to all the various news going on with Alita Battle Angel. And so this is currently what is going on. Alita Battle Angel is alive. Alita Battle Angel is surviving, and I think that Alita Battle Angel is on its way. It's on pace to make money, to break even, and also to make a profit. And basically what we have here is the worldwide totals are now $263.3 million. It's a very, very good second weekend. And all of that comes from, or a vast majority of that comes from, a very strong showing in China. In China, it came out and it has made $63 million for the opening weekend, which actually, if it keeps that up, if it keeps up that momentum, and from what we see, from what we're hearing from audiences over in China, they like the film. The film could end up very well making close to $200 million just in China alone, which automatically would mean that this film is well on its way to just pure box office gold, since it's also doing very well in other parts of the world as well. But some people are looking at this number and saying, oh, but that domestic number isn't as high as I thought that it might be. That is indeed true. The domestic number is not nearly as high as some of us had hoped for. However, when you remember, as I just said, How to Train Your Dragon did really well this weekend. In fact, most prognosticators were saying it actually outperformed, it overperformed what many people thought it was going to do. Since there is essentially nothing coming out next weekend as far as major releases, since the week after that is going to be Captain Marvel, and no one in their right mind would put a film out before that movie, because that movie is just going to do so well. If you want to see like 30 minutes of a box office history of Captain Marvel, go check out the Odin's Movie Blog channel. I just put one out earlier today. But in the end, that means that Alita is going to have a very good chance to not only stay number 2, but also maybe even perform even a little bit better. As we see up here, it made $12 million still. That's a 57.9% drop, but I guarantee you that's not nearly as low as they were thinking, especially with How to Train Your Dragon doing so well. So if this movie, if Alita is able to hold on to even just that number 2 position and is able to perform very similar. I mean, the fact that they added theaters this week, they added 12 theaters to it, that tells you all you need to know. It means that this film is doing better than what they thought. Is it doing bonkers? Is it doing crazy numbers? No. And as I said from the very beginning, it's not going to be that kind of movie. American audiences are just not going to show up for it. It's just not their type of movie, unfortunately. But because of channels like mine, because of Geeks and Gamers, because of so many other channels that are showing this movie love and saying, this is how you make a strong character, I think that people are starting to wake up. I think people that were saying, hey, I had no interest in seeing this until you talked about it, now I'm going to see it. And many of them coming back saying, hey, this movie is pretty damn good. Thank you for recommending it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I'm glad that you are. But I think Alita Battle Angel is definitely in a good position here. And so let's actually break down some of the box office numbers. And so as you see, it's made, as of now, $202.6 million in the foreign market, doing very well in the foreign market. Now, some people might say, oh, but that number obviously doesn't include China because it's not listed here, or Japan because it's not listed here. The reason why that's not the case, at least from China's perspective, is because we do know, because remember that it's obviously ahead in time in China, that the movie is projected to make around $63 million just in China alone. However, when it comes to boxofficemojo.com, they don't update the numbers, all the time, meaning they don't always have the most accurate single country numbers until a little bit later on, because obviously it's going to take a little bit longer to get that money, to transfer it over to what it means in American dollars, etc. So it makes a lot of sense that would indeed be the case. However, we can still see how well it's doing in other countries. South Korea, it's up to $14.7 million. So again, doing very well in South Korea, 63 million in China. Japan, we don't even have Japan's numbers yet. I've tried to find it. I've tried to find someone saying anything about it. We don't have it yet. Japan's not going to be China. It's not going to be close to that. But if this can be a like 10 million, $20 million film in Japan, that alone could be enough to really push this film ahead, not only in Japan and China, but also in other countries as well. The point being that this number, this foreign total, is going to be at least $300 million by the end of its run. At the very least. I think that it's probably going to be more than that, but because it's doing so well in China, because it could make $200 million just in China alone, I think that we're seeing a very strong indication of how well this film is being received and therefore how well it's going to do overall. In fact, even Robert Rodriguez himself says that he is he is primed to direct a second Alita Battle Angel film. So the film itself sets up for a sequel. And I think that because it is now doing so well overseas, because it's not doing as poorly as many people thought it was going to do in the United States, because people are actually going out to support it multiple times. Can't tell you how many people have left comments saying this is my 5th, 6th, 7th time seeing it. And I'm all for that. Seriously, if you love a movie that much, if you want to help a movie out, if you want to help a franchise out, that's what you do. You show up. You support it. You buy the tickets. You see it multiple times in theaters. It's really cool to see it too, because it reminds me of some of the older days when you used to have these franchises that people were just so protective of, like just diehard fans for, wanting to just do everything they could to help it out, to give it money. You know, seriously, like as the old meme from Futurama goes, take my damn money. But it's just so sad that in today's market, in today's world, especially with the Brie Larsons and everything else going on, that people are just starting to hide away from the Star Wars, hide away from the MCUs because of this political nonsense. That's why I love what's going on here, because you have a movie that is focused on a character, is focused on this really cool world, and it's leaving all that identity politics nonsense out of it. And even more so, this is a film that very easily could have jumped on the identity politics train, not just because there's a female lead, but also because of the various races involved in the film, because of the lead actress herself, Rosa Salazar. I mean, that's not just a white name. Like, that's obviously, indication of something, but they didn't run with that. They didn't. And kudos to them for doing that. Rosa Salazar does an amazing job in this film, by the way, speaking of her. But this is indeed doing very, very well. And when you have the director who's already on board saying, I would love to do this again, and I think James Cameron probably had a lot of fun doing this project, probably is going to see a crap ton of money from this project in it, and would just be smart to go ahead and say, all right, let's go ahead and continue to move this forward, continue to move this technology forward, continue to bring about a film that people can actually be passionate about again. It's a great feeling. It's great to be passionate about a film for once. It's great to have that positivity to it. But again, Alita Battle Angel, it's doing very well. Now, some people might ask, okay, so how much money are we talking here? How much money is it going to make? Well, as I've mentioned in previous videos, especially on my box office videos, I've mentioned that most films make around 60% of their entire box office gross within the first 2 weeks. We are now in weekend 2, and this is the number we're looking at, 263 million. That easily could be more. Because remember, as you saw before, that was only including the China number. It did not include Japan or any of the other updates. So this is a number that's going to continue to update throughout the next couple of days. However, what we do know is that 60% of this number can still indicate quite a good deal. So some people say, okay, how do we figure out that number? Well, if this was 50%, what would you do? You would multiply it by 2, right? And then that would tell you, oh, this is half of the eventual total, multiply it by 2, and that's how we get our number. This, on the other hand, is not really how big budget films work. Normally, the first 2 weekends, they make 60% because of the fact people are excited to see it. People want to go see it first thing. They want to avoid spoilers, and so therefore they see it right away. And this is also where box offices, or rather where studios make the most of their money too, because they're able to basically rent the theater space for dirt cheap. And get the vast majority of their profits from those first 2 weekends. And so again, that's why 60% is such a big number. So how would you figure that out then? 60% is not 50%, so you couldn't just multiply it by 2. Well, this is where you get into some kind of crazy math. But anyway, if you end up multiplying it by 1.65, how'd you come up with that number? That's crazy math you got going on. Well, I just said, okay, if you times it by 2, that's 50%. All right, so 1 divided by 2 times 100 is 50%. That's just basic math there. All right, 1.65. 1 divided by 1.65, times 100 is around 60%. And so therefore, if you multiply this by 1.65, that's how you get your 60% number. I know, fun, right? And what we're seeing is that if this is indeed 60% of its entire gross, then the film is just going to make at minimum $430 million. Now, that's, again, if it is indeed at 60%. It could be more, it could be less. It could be the fact that it's made too much in the first 2 weeks and it's going to make nothing from here on out, and then that end number is going to end up being, oh, well, it ended up making 70% of its entire box office in the first 2 weeks. That obviously could be the case. So what's the worst case scenario here? The worst case scenario at this point is the film maxes out at around $360 million, and that's just because of the basic projections that we have going on in China alone. That's assuming that in America, it just drops off. Everyone stops seeing it. In the rest of the world, it drops off, and China is the only number producing it. $360 million is the very minimum that this film is going to make. What is the maximum that this film is going to make? Let's say that the number is actually better. Let's say that it is 50% of its entire take. Well, then obviously, then you'd multiply that number by 2, and then you're finding yourself in the $500 million range, which would just be fantastic. The break-even number for this film is $430 million. So as every day goes by, as every week goes by, and it goes and continues to be out in China, China usually gives you around a 4-week window to stay in theaters. If it continues to make bonkers money there, then what you're going to see is a number that's going to very, very quickly, I suspect, in the next 2 weeks especially, cross that $430 million number and get into the point where it's going to start to make a profit. And if it does break that $430 million worldwide total, again, 60% of that would make it be able to make up for the production budget and also marketing, assumed marketing that is, just based off of industry standards, then anything that they would make after that point would be profit. And so I honestly think this film is going to make profit because it's doing so well. I think it's vastly outdoing anything that anyone else ever suspected. It's so funny to hear all the articles last week and, before the movie came out, we're talking about how this movie's going to bomb, the first box office bomb. It's going to lose $200 million. It's going to lose so much money. And yet we're now at the point now where in the box office, it's almost impossible for this film. I mean, obviously anything can happen, but it's almost impossible for this film to not break even at this point, if the trends indeed continue. So I'm very excited for this. I know that Jeremy said that he's going to try and go see Alita today. I really hope that he does so. And anyone that's a follower of Jeremy on this channel, please do yourself a favor. Go to any video Jeremy makes from this point out and say, have you seen Alita yet? Have you seen Alita yet? And until he does, don't let him get away with it, because this movie is just so fantastic, so great, so solid in its world building and its character development. And this film deserves everything. I'm so sad that the domestic number is probably going to cap out at around $80-85 million. If it makes the $100 million mark domestically, that could be really cool. However, I honestly think that obviously you can see 77% from the foreign market. That is going to pretty much stay consistent. Most of its money is going to come from China, is going to come from other foreign markets. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. What it means to me is that this film is going to do well enough to where people are going to say, wait a minute, I missed that film. And they're going to buy it on Blu-ray, buy it on DVD. And I think that adding all of this together, and also what I suspect the final box office will be, this is going to be a film that they're going to say, hey, Robert Rodriguez, let's go ahead and make the sequel. Because I really hope so. I really hope they do. Because, again, every part of this film is great. Robert Rodriguez's direction is fine. James Cameron's production is great. Rosa Salazar is fantastic. Christoph Waltz, every person in this film attached to it is solid. Even the boyfriend in the film, who I think is probably one of the weaker links to it, is still fine. He's still solid. He's not cringeworthy by any means. So I really hope that this film does well. Just a couple more movies to talk about. So again, How to Train Your Dragon did fantastic. Lego Movie 2, as I've said, the end is nigh for the Lego Movie being a wide release film. $136.6 million. This film it's not looking good. It's not looking good for this, especially since in 2 weeks we have much bigger budget films coming out. This film theoretically could be a box office bomb, unfortunately. So I haven't seen it yet, though, which I think kind of speaks to the box office numbers being the way that they are, seeing that a lot of people just aren't seeing it. They have no interest in it. So, yeah, Lego Movie looks like we're going to start to see these be straight to DVD. Also, Fighting With My Family is a movie that I really want to see. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I love wrestling, so I'm very excited for this. It's getting great reviews from audiences and critics alike, and this number is still way too early, the $8.2 million, because it got an early release in some places, and now it's gotten a wide release, and we're still waiting on numbers for this. We don't know how well it's going to do overseas. We don't know how well it's going to do in the United States, but I can tell you this much: it was not a big budget film, and so it's not going to have to make that much money to do well. And even with all those things being the case, this film overall was fourth at the box office, which, again, not terrible. Not a terrible thing for adding 2,707 theaters to what was eventually 211 theaters. So not terrible. However, I hope it does well. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts about all these box office numbers? But mostly, what are y'all's thoughts on Alita? Do you think that Alita is going to make money? Do my numbers make sense to you? If they don't make sense, please let me know. I will try, reach out to me on Twitter, DM me, email me, and I'll try and, break it down for you. But once again, the reason why I say it's going to break even is because of that 60% of the entire box office take. And the reason why I know and say that number is because I've done... this is a long time ago. You can probably find it on my channel when I first started doing box office videos on my own channel, before I started doing stuff at Geeks and Gamers. I broke down several big budget films and how much money they made in the first 2 weeks versus the rest of their entire run, and 60% just ended up being around the average total. It usually would range between 50 and 60%, sometimes would barely be under 50%. And that just goes to show you that most people go to see a movie in the first 2 weeks, which just, again, from a logical standpoint makes sense. However, if the multipliers don't make sense to you, I would be glad to be able to explain it to you. But just again, if this is half of its total, what do you do with half? You multiply it by 2. That's how you get the number. 1.65 would be the 60% number, and etc. You can do the math on your own, actually, and I think that's what the great thing about boxofficemojo.com and all of this stuff is that you can do the math yourself, and you can have fun with it. Math can indeed be fun again, if it ever was fun to begin with in the first place. But seriously, let me know your thoughts on this. Have you seen Alita? Please go see it if you haven't, especially if in the United States of America. Let's get this movie to $100 million, in the domestic, the United States market. And let's get, if you are not here in the United States, keep going to support this film. Bring your friends, bring your family, tell your friends about it if you've seen it, if you like it. If you don't like it, hey, not everyone's going to like everything. However, I think that we could know without a shadow of a doubt that this film is going to be a hell of a lot more important, culturally speaking, and especially when it comes to strong female characters, than anything Captain Marvel could ever hope to achieve. Have a wonderful day, guys. Seriously, you're all amazing. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Go check out the video that we posted on this channel, the music video that we posted on this channel. It's really great, guys. And unfortunately, Jeremy, in his typical Jeremy broness, uploaded an incorrect version first and screwed up the entire algorithm. However, people are still watching it and are loving it overall. So go check out that video too. Seriously, it's great. It's awesome. Jeremy's an awesome guy. Go support him. He put his heart and soul into that project. He put months of his time, months on the, almost it feels like months on the road, driving to California to be able to do all of this stuff and to be able to bring this to life for me, for you, for everyone. So give him some love. Show him some support. Share the video around. Let's get that let's get that video trending. Seriously. And Jeremy, if you're watching this, I love you, man. You're awesome. Anyway, have a great day, guys. And as always, God bless.